Whispers in the walls. It was a quiet night. The kind of night that presses down on you with the weight of silence. Heavy and oppressive, like an unseen hand on your chest. Ellie Saturday curled up on the couch in her living room. The dim glow of the television screen casting fleeting shadows across the walls. Her parents were away for the weekend, leaving her home alone for the first time in years. At 16, she was supposed to be old enough to handle it, but something about the stillness of the house unsettled her. The wind outside rattled the windows, and the branches of the old oak tree scraped against the roof, a sound that made Ellie's heart race with nervous anticipation. She had always been jumpy at night. The house, a large Victorian with creaky floors and narrow hallways, seemed to breathe with its own life. Tonight, though, it felt different, almost too quiet. Ellie glanced at the clock, 11:15 p.m. Her parents had said they'd call around midnight to check in. She distracted herself by scrolling through her phone, though she kept one ear tuned to the creaks and groans of the house. Then it happened. A soft, scraping sound came from upstairs. Ellie frowned, her thumb halting its scroll mid-swipe. Her breath caught in her throat. It was subtle at first, like the noise of something dragging across the floor, but it wasn't the wind or the house settling. It was too deliberate. Thump. Ellie's eyes darted to the staircase at the far end of the hallway. The thump came again, louder this time, like something was being dragged across the floor above her. Her heart beat faster now, every muscle in her body tense. She stood slowly, trying to control the rising panic, and tiptoed toward the staircase. The house seemed to breathe in sync with her own shallow breaths. As she reached the bottom of the stairs, the silence returned, so deep it felt suffocating. "Get a grip, Ellie," she muttered to herself, though her voice sounded foreign in the empty house. "It's just your imagination. It's probably the old pipes acting up." But even as she said it, the sound returned. Scrape, scrape, thump. This time, the noise was unmistakable. It was coming from her parents' bedroom. The door to the room was closed, but she could swear the sound was growing louder, almost as if something was trying to drag itself across the floor. Ellie's legs felt like lead, but she took a deep breath and made her way toward the bedroom. Each step felt like an eternity. When she reached the door, her hand hovered above the handle, trembling. Should she open it? Should she call someone? Her parents were too far away to help. She took the plunge and turned the knob. The door creaked open, revealing the darkened room. Everything seemed in order, nothing out of place, but the air felt different. Stifling. A soft whisper sounded from the corner. "Ellie?" Her blood ran cold. The whisper was low, almost a sigh, but it was unmistakable. The voice was faint, as if it had come from the walls themselves. It was as though the house was speaking directly to her. "Who's there?" she demanded, her voice barely above a whisper. The room was still, save for the soft scratching sound that now seemed to come from the far corner. Ellie's eyes locked onto the shadowed corner of the room, where a large wardrobe stood. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure it would give her away. Then the scratching grew louder, more frantic, desperate. Ellie's instincts screamed at her to run, but she couldn't. She had to know. She had to see. She inched closer to the wardrobe, her breath shallow and quick. Her fingers brushed the cool metal handle of the wardrobe door, and with a single motion, she yanked it open. Nothing. The wardrobe was empty. Confusion filled her, and for a moment, the room seemed to settle. But then, as if responding to her disbelief, the whispers started again. "Ellie?" This time, the voice was clearer, more distinct, but it wasn't coming from the wardrobe. It was coming from the walls. The sound seemed to echo through the plaster, vibrating through the house like an unseen force. Ellie pressed her hands to her ears, her pulse quickening as the voice grew louder, more insistent. "Ellie, help me?" Her breath caught in her throat. She pulled away from the walls and stumbled backward, tripping over the edge of the bed. The whispers didn't stop. They only grew stronger, swirling around her, pulling her into the heart of the house. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Ellie's stomach twisted. She felt something, a presence closing in on her. It wasn't the house settling. It wasn't her imagination. There was something else here. Something old. Something angry. Thump. Scrape. The sound was back. Louder now, coming from the hallway. Ellie's gaze shot to the doorway. The shadows there seemed to shift and grow, as though something was moving in the dark. Without thinking, she bolted for the stairs. Her feet barely touched the ground as she sprinted, her heart hammering in her chest. She could feel the presence behind her. Closing in, she reached the living room and grabbed her phone. But as she unlocked it, the lights went out, plunging the house into complete darkness. A cold hand brushed her shoulder. She spun around, but there was no one there. The air was thick with something suffocating. She fumbled for the light switch, but her hands shook violently. The whispers were everywhere now, swirling around her in a maddening cacophony. "Ellie, help me, Ellie." Then, as suddenly as it had started, everything went silent. The house was still. Ellie stood there in the dark, paralyzed. The whispers had stopped. The sounds were gone. The air no longer felt oppressive. For a moment, she thought she might have imagined it until she heard a faint thump from upstairs. She wasn't alone. And whatever was in this house was waiting for her to make her next move.